like that scene in Dumb and Dumber where they're mocking.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. Mockingbird, don't everybody have you heard? Who's gonna buy me a mockingbird? And if the mockingbird don't sing, who's gonna buy me a diamond ring?
Yeah.
Go on.
Into it. Please tell me that was recorded.
Huh? Oh, absolutely.
Oh, fuck yeah, that was amazing. I am so glad we caught that.
That was great. I really love these musical interludes. Yeah.
While I rub myself with lotion that no one can see.
It puts the lotion on
It's
its
tattoo
skin.
butter.
It puts the lotion on its skin. Well, welcome. Welcome to Ghosts and Hoes.
Ghosts and Hoes.
Paranormal podcast where we talk about all things spooky.
Yeah.
Murder most foul.
Absolutely that.
Aliens.
Aliens. Very important teenage science.
Very important teenage science.
Which was a great episode title choice brought to us by our patron, Brandy.
Thanks, Brandy.
I was really pulling for that one. Like, I really hoped that's the one that she picked, because there were a few really good choices.
Nice.
But I was really hoping that she picked that one because it was my favorite.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of episode titles, next week, maybe the week, it depends on how, because my story is a two-parter today.
Yeah,
so I might have to do this week and next week, but the next person that gets to pick an episode title is Carrie C.
Yeah!
Nice. Woo!
Also, guess what, guys?
What?
This is our 100th episode.
It is!
Right now.
Shit.
What's happening right this minute
Today
is our 100th fucking
is
episode.
the day.
And it's also our first video episode.
It is.
And our first video episode.
It is. There will be, we'll explain that more later.
I shouldn't have said anything.
It's fine.
It's all right. We got to keep them wanting more.
But yeah, there's
Anticipation.
Anticipation.
there's news, but we will share that later. Just know that this is being filmed.
Filmed.
Exactly.
As someone who
Flammed.
records video, I am offended
Why?
by flimmed.
And,
Filmed.
well,
It's
and the
from
best
a movie.
part is Randall is just the magical mystery voice in the background.
Oh, yeah.
Like
you
Charlie.
can't see me.
No, you can't see him.
Charlie.
With partial
Charlie.
intention.
You can hear him, though.
Yeah. I mean, I look like a feral hobgoblin every day, so I just don't.
I don't need people
care.
to see me rubbing shit on my tattoos, you know?
Well,
Well,
you have to
just
start an
don't.
OnlyFans for that, I think.
You could.
There's a market, I'm sure.
Probably.
I'm
There's a
sure there
market.
is.
Yeah.
Brought to you by Mad Rabbit.
Right.
No, you didn't like it.
You know, I thought about talking about it
Oh, go ahead.
for a sec. So, it is February 1st as of this recording.
Yes.
And I got my first tattoo in the beginning of September 2020, and I have 4 of them now. So over the course of 4 months, I got 4 tattoos.
Yes.
I have 3 more coming this year, minimally.
Yeah.
Minimally. Actually, no, 4 this year.
Get it.
Okay. Z was kind enough to lend me the rest of her hustle butter with the CBD added. And it's magnificent.
It smells really good.
Awesome. It smells great.
Yes.
On Instagram, I've been seeing ads for this other tattoo butter called Mad Rabbit. And it's like, guaranteed to make your shit pop and derp derp derp.
Derp derp derp.
And I looked at the ingredients and I'm like, it's almost 1-for-1 to hustle butter, right?
Okay.
But this 1.7 ounce can is $16.
Yes.
This 5 ounce tub of the non-CBD version is $20.
Oh.
So this is
okay.
1/3 of the price
Yeah.
for the volume, right? So I went on a little bit of a tirade on Instagram
Yeah.
because it does indeed make your tattoos pop, but absolutely no more than hustle butter does. For the same amount of time, everything. Like, yeah, it gets blacker for about 25 minutes, and then it's just smooth skin.
Right.
So I was like, fuck Mad Rabbit.
He was very incensed.
It was. The thing is, I actually do like it.
I can smell it.
I
from
think
here.
it smells better than
it smells
hustle
good.
butter. I like the smell better. I like the smell and the texture more than hustle butter. It's just more expensive.
Yeah.
So
Noted.
Mad Rabbit is good shit, but
Good.
if you are from Hustle Butter, send us free shit.
Please, I love it.
Oh, yes. That.
Yeah, that's what, or at least the last time I saw Jonesy, that's what he used.
Oh, okay.
Sponsor us.
Yeah, I
Hustle
just got a
Butter.
new tattoo, but it's on my butt, so I'm not going to show it right now. I showed it pre-film.
You can see it on our Instagram though.
Oh, it is on my Instagram, so there you
Just
go.
pop up and show it to the camera.
So there you go.
Hey!
Yeah, my sister posted it, so.
Yes. So also, I have a couple pieces of news,
I have one too.
not related to us itself, but just things that people have been posting.
I have one too.
I'm going to go get a different
Probably
mask.
the
'cause
same.
I hate this.
I went very in depth with mine.
I didn't. Is
Okay.
it about the mystery of Dyatlov Pass being solved?
No, that was the other one.
Oh!
I had two pieces of news. You
the
picked
other
that one.
Was the other one about King Henry VIII?
No.
Oh, then I've got news for you, ma'am.
Please do go on.
So, first, because, well, it's hard to pick. It's basically like a Sophie's choice of which one you want to hear first.
Right.
Which one do you want to hear first?
Henry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, somebody, they posted it, I think, in the squad page. And apparently, according to the Sun, I need this here, but you can't see what my thing is.
Okay.
So, the 500-year-old solid gold centerpiece to King Henry VIII's lost/missing crown has been found
Oh my God, where?
in a field
What?
by an amateur named Kevin. Kevin found it because he was relic hunting with his metal detector in a field.
Fucking Kevin.
Kevin.
That's
And
a dream right there.
Where was it?
That is a dream.
It was near Market Harborough,
Okay.
which I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. Harborough? I don't know.
Okay. I don't know.
I don't even know where the fuck it is. But his metal detector detected something below him.
Oh, much
And so he
excite.
kind of like dug around a little bit, and inside of a small hole in the ground, he thought it was like an old milk cap.
Okay, yeah.
Like milk
yeah,
bottle
yeah.
cap or a piece of foil. But then when he got it out, he's like, oh hell, this is solid gold.
Holy shit.
Like this is legit solid gold. But yeah, that thing's been missing for 500 plus years.
So I wonder if Henry was just writing and it just popped out.
No, because someone destroyed all of his crown. It was destroyed by, I can't remember who, but I do remember that it happened. All of the jewels were taken out, and
Okay.
and the crown was supposed to have been melted down and turned into coins, but it wasn't.
Okay, I'm trying to think
But
who
yeah,
would have done that
I can't remember
and when, but now I'm going to have to look into that.
Well, so look into it.
Holy shit.
I think I have it still pulled up on my phone, but
Much excite.
there was a lot, and I just figured I would give you a very vague overview of what happened because
Well-
it was exciting and really cool. Michael, I have to tell her.
Happy 100th episode to me.
Happy 100th episode to you.
That was a
indeed.
fucking gift.
Right? And let's see. I do think I left it up on my phone.
Oh
for
my
this
God, I
purpose.
did not hear anything about this.
I am surprised.
I missed the whole story.
Wow!
Non-suffocating.
The centerpiece of
Aw.
Henry VIII's crown was found by a relic hunter named Kevin in a field in England using
Yeah.
his metal detector.
Fucking A, Kevin.
Right?
Right?
That's what I said. Just fucking Kevin's living my dream.
There we go. It's 2 million pounds. It's worth
Holy
2 million
shit.
pounds.
Kevin, just living my dream.
Right? So that's
Which is
and
worth
it's-
approximately
it's
$3.5 million.
Kevin!
But it's like pristine.
Oh my
To be
God.
fair, I had to take my glasses off because they're fogging, and I
Fogging.
can't see fucking anything.
I feel that. Yeah, let's see if I can. It's 2.5 inches high and an inch wide.
Holy shit.
It's now at the British Museum.
I love the British Museum.
Yeah, much
this-
excite.
This is directly from the Sun article by Paul Sims. So just to get that out of the way. Experts say it's one of the most significant finds by an amateur, which absolutely.
Yes.
Let's see.
Really upset
Here we
it wasn't
go.
me.
Historians feared the relic was lost for good when Oliver Cromwell abolished the monarchy in 1649 and beheaded Charles I. Cromwell ordered the 7-pound, 6-ounce crown, valued by the then Parliament at £1,100, to be melted down, minted, and sold as coins.
That makes sense.
Its 344 precious stones were sold separately, while other parts of the crown were passed on intact, never to be seen again.
Okay. Wow.
This is a replica of said
the crown. Yeah.
It's enormous and very gaudy.
Thank you, because if you, again, Joe is just
Blind.
a beige shape and then a slightly less beige shape.
Fair.
But yeah, so I was like, well, that's fucking cool.
Right. Well, and then the Dyatlov Pass.
Yes. So apparently they have solved the mystery using science and the movie Frozen.
Yeah. So
because of the way the snow falling effect in Frozen, how realistic it looked.
Mm-hmm.
The guy that was researching Dyatlov Pass was like, hey, I'm going to come out to California and talk to you about that because I'm a scientist and I want to know how to recreate this for my science.
Right.
Figured it out, and according to the team researching the case, they were like, it was a really rare, weird avalanche.
Yeah.
Which I'm
with you. So they said it was an avalanche. However,
what about the radiation?
This very specific avalanche would only be the length of an SUV.
Wait.
It's a very specific length.
Yeah.
It was only like 17 feet. 15, 17 feet, something like that.
Oh, wide?
It's a rare, it's a really rare type of avalanche that they're really small.
It's very small avalanche.
And,
very specifically sized avalanche.
Yeah. And so he was trying to say that the whole camp was destroyed and these people were, crushed by this avalanche. But what about all the radiation that was found on some of the party members' bodies like that? I don't think an avalanche is going to cover them in radiation unless there was radioactive snow and debris. But
who knows?
Where is it again?
Russia.
Yeah.
What I could see is radioactive waste being not appropriately handled and buried in the mountains.
Could be. I mean, but we're talking what, the 50s?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I mean,
specifically,
absolutely, yeah,
specifically 50s
entirely
Russia.
possible. And there are a lot of people that are like, and then they had missing eyes and somebody's tongue was missing. I'm like, okay, well that was probably animals,
right?
But the radiation,
it's strange. But being that it was the 50s in Russia during the nuclear arms race and the Red Scare, that it.
Yeah, I'm just not buying that it was solely caused by an avalanche.
Sure.
Correct.
Yeah.
Where I'm going with. I'm like maybe. However, I
doesn't
still
explain
have
the rest of it.
More questions, but hopefully they figure that out, and they're like, "Hey, the radiation was caused by this."
Right.
So we'll see what that brings in the future.
I have some news.
Please go on.
So, all of you know how we here at Ghosts and Heauxs feel about the DNA Doe Project.
Yes.
And why they really should sponsor us.
I
really should.
At this point.
But here's the thing. You have heard us mention them multiple times. If you are a new listener, you may not know that we have our very own DNA expert that we refer to on cases, stories from time to time. I've read several statements from her. She is anonymous, however. It's okay to say she's a female now.
Oh, okay.
Just because she does not like the spotlight. However, I could not be any more fucking proud to know and to be able to say that our very own friend and DNA expert was the co-lead for a case that just cracked, solving a Doe case for Wendy Williams, who was a 14-year-old runaway from Denver, and she is, they are believing, the youngest victim of Gary Ridgway, who was the Green River Killer.
Oh, shit.
Yep.
Our girl did that.
I know, it makes me want to cry.
Our girl did that.
I saw her post about it, and I was like,
yep, our girl did that.
No.
I know. I got verklempt, and I'm trying really hard right now not to, because I could not be any more fucking proud and honored. And what she does and what they all do is so fucking important.
Don't.
And here's why. This is why. So Stephen's remains were found March 21st in 1984. She's been unidentified until right fucking now.
So 36 years?
Yeah. And she was found in the woods near what is now SeaTac out in the suburbs there. And she had been dead for a year before they found her. There was a groundskeeper there, and his dog brought him a leg bone.
Oh, shit.
And that's how she was found. And they do believe that she is the youngest victim. Like I said, Green River Killer, another one of his victims, was found in the same area. Fits the MO. They're very certain.
Right.
And now here's the thing. The DNA Doe Project were able to identify Wendy through DNA submitted by distant cousins on both her mother's and father's side. They built out a tree, and then they found her parents.
Yeah.
The investigators then matched it to a missing persons report from 1983. But here's the thing. This is why we always say opt in. Many years ago, Wendy's parents did upload their DNA in hopes of finding their missing child. But when the policy change happened in 2019, their DNA profile wasn't able to be found in any searches because they didn't know. Opting in to GEDmatch was not a publicly known thing. We knew because of our connection to the DNA Doe Project. That's the only way we knew.
Yeah.
And because we so closely follow these kinds of things. If you don't know, you're not going to know. And so this could have been solved a hell of a lot sooner, but because they didn't know to opt in, it wasn't.
Yeah.
And that's why we always say how important it is. If you want to know any more about it, you can go to the DNADoeProject.org. They're on Twitter at DNA Doe Project. They have a Facebook. And if you would like to help sponsor, this is directly from their site. You can sponsor a doe.
Oh.
I did not know this. If you'd like to help sponsor one of our does, you may select any individual from our current gallery of cases that has a donate button. Usually these cases have already passed the first crucial step. Their DNA has passed quality control and is ready to undergo sequencing. Each case costs approximately $1,500 to process. Mind you, all these people working at the DNA Doe Project are volunteers.
Yeah.
Okay? Each case costs $1,500 just to process. And as soon as the funding goal for a doe is reached, they will give the lab the green light to start the sequencing, and results will become available in 1 to 2 months, so you can check the progress of the doe that you sponsor. Sometimes, if no DNA is available, they can obtain DNA from biological material, and the expense of that to extract DNA from blood is minimal, but an attempted extraction from bone or tooth can cost up to $760 per attempt. So, in some of these cases, the funding will be needed for the extraction. They provide an extra donate button on specific cases. So,
We should look through those projects and sponsor.
I absolutely plan on sponsoring, and if we do it as a podcast, I'm down with that too. Like I said, I just could not be any more fucking proud of her.
She's also helping me try and locate my birth
I
father.
saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Yeah, it's not easy because he is from the Middle East, and apparently like Ancestry, 23andMe and stuff isn't big over there. So I don't have, number one, like I don't have any knowledge of that side of my family, but on my ancestry tree, like I don't have, she found one person, but that would be on that side of my family, but the relation is so far removed that she's like, you're related at least by second great grandparents or before.
Right.
So it's a very distant relation, but I just gave her all of them. I'm like, do what you need. But she's
legit just made her an admin on my ancestry.
Yeah.
On my ancestry account, and turns out like way back, she and I actually share.
I remember that.
We're actually related distantly back into the 1600s.
Yeah. So
in Germany.
I was like, here, have fun. But she's talking to
she's admin on mine. I'm like, here.
She's talking to her PI friends to see, because secretly I'm hoping he's a secret billionaire.
Right? I wish that for
Right?
you too.
Thank you. That'd be
Oh,
great.
I'm sorry. I wish that for us.
Yeah, I mean, it was implied.
Us.
I wish that for us.
Everyone in this room, especially. Everyone else in my family.
Papa needs some video gear.
Right. I know. It's like,
Daddy needs some gear.
I don't know if
Right?
but I sent that to you earlier. I was like, I mean, I've got 35 years of back child support plus,
girl.
plus, interest and inflation
Right?
from 1985. So, I
Fair.
mean, there's other reasons,
Fair.
but secretly, that's my number one reason. Just pulling for him to be a secret billionaire.
Fair. So yeah, but that's some really fucking
Yeah.
cool news. I'm just so
I know.
amazed
I
by what they
can't.
do. And it's no secret that I'm a history nerd.
Oh, yeah.
I rabbit hole through. I will spend hours on Ancestry just going down rabbit holes. I just find it all so fascinating. So yeah, this was a cool thing for us.
Very.
So opt in, y'all.
Do
Opt in.
it. Do
This is why
it.
we say it.
Yeah.
This is why we say it. Those poor people had to wait even longer than the 37 years they had to.
Yeah.
Just because they didn't know.
Yeah. Which,
After opting in, or not opting in, but after uploading their DNA specifically for that purpose. What a kick in the dick,
right.
Yeah. So,
But, are her parents still alive?
yeah,
Oh, well, that's good.
yeah.
That they got that closure.
Absolutely.
Yay.
Absolutely.
I love when that happens.
I know. So, do we have backhoes?
No.
So we're just going to get into it because
none I remember.
yeah, because I'm looking over there and I mean there's like an entire I can't read any of it, mind you,
yeah.
but there's like an entire page
It's
of
a
sources.
whole ass
So
page
I
of
know
sources.
she's got some shit.
Buddy, as soon as you hear what she's doing, oh yeah, no, 11 pages makes sense.
Yeah. And that was me being conservative.
Yeah, no, I know it was.
Yeah.
You showed me one of your sources, so I
Yeah.
know you were being conservative.
Yes.
And
yes,
all
did.
I know is that it's a fucking bummer.
Oh, it is.
So-
It's rough.
It is.
But I go first today.
You do go first today. Yay!
So I'm just going to get this fucking ball rolling because we've got
And it's gonna be
a couple novels here. My
it's-
font is just bigger.
It's gonna be a cliffhanger bummer too,
Dun, dun, dun.
because
You got a long one too?
But my font is bigger.
Yeah.
It's true. If I read the whole thing today, we would be here for like 4 hours.
Fair. So.
No,
I don't want that.
absolutely not.
Could it have been a Patreon episode? Yes. Am I impatient? Also, yes.
Yeah.
Touche. So, all right. Well, here we go. So, like I said, I knew that Z would have a bummer. So today I do not.
Excellent.
At least not in the way I'm assuming Z does.
Okay.
So today I have the story of the Sisters Black and the murder of Oceana Snead.
Well, this sounds like a play,
Yeah.
Right?
and I love it already.
And here's the best part. Like, if I didn't know that this actually was real,
yeah.
I would have thought the same fucking thing. I would have thought that this is just some made up fucking, like, mystery novel from what's her name? Marple?
Anne Rice?
No.
Agatha Christie.
Sure, her
Ah.
too. Yes.
Who are you thinking of?
Sure.
Was it Agatha?
Yeah, Agatha
Yeah,
Christie, but
Agatha Christie.
her character's name is Marple or Maple or...
Yeah, Miss Marple.
Yes. I would have thought that.
The marvelous Miss Marple.
But no, guys, this is real. I've seen the clippings. So here we go.
Yay!
So, Caroline Martin, Mary Snead, and Virginia Wardlaw were sisters, known as the Sisters Black.
Bitchin'.
Why?
Dope name.
Because that's all they fucking wore. Now, Caroline and Mary were actually widows, but they all dressed in black all the time anyway, in all of their Victorian Gothic glory. We're talking cloaks, lace veils, gloves, the whole fucking thing, and I am here for it.
Into it.
Now, I'd like to be able to say that they were just three badass black lace wearing Victorian babes, but I can't.
Uh-oh.
They were actually heinous fucking monsters.
Oh!
And the story is weird as hell, so let's start with Oceana.
Yes, please.
Oceana Wardlaw Martin, or OC, as she was more commonly called, was born September of 1885 in Manhattan, New York. Her mother was a Southern aristocrat named Caroline Bell Wardlaw. Father was a veteran of the Confederacy named Colonel Robert Maxwell Martin. OC had a brother named Hugh who was 4 years older than her, and when she was 3, Hugh, who was 7 at the time, fell down a flight of stairs and died.
Oh.
His parents, however, had taken out a life insurance policy on Hugh and received $22,000, which was $614,852 today when he died. Suspect.
Highly
fucking questionable. After Hugh's death, the Martin family kind of disappears from public record until January 9th, 1901. On that day, the neighbors heard a loud crashing sound coming from the Martins' home, and when they went over to see if everything was okay, they found Robert Martin dead on the floor with Caroline Martin hovering over his body and OC crying in a corner. They would later recall that Caroline glared at OC and growled one single word to her daughter: remember.
Oh.
And OC immediately stopped crying and was silent.
Oh.
Right.
I don't see any problem so far.
Right? In a surprise to no one, I'm sure, there was a life insurance policy on Robert,
Oh,
Weird.
with Caroline as his beneficiary.
Shocking.
And according to his obituary, Colonel Martin had apparently suffered a long illness before his death, though the exact disease is unfucking clear.
Oh, okay.
When her husband passed, Caroline collected the $10,000, which was $306,440 today.
So she's
Ooh.
sitting on about $700, close to $800,000 total.
Yes.
yeah. What was the first amount again?
600.
Could you remind
It
me?
was $614,852.
And that was from the kid dying.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Like
So-
a life insurance policy on
Yep.
him?
So $714,000
Uh-huh.
Wow.
in
Right.
today's money.
So, yeah. So she collects the money and she takes OC to go back to South Carolina to be with her family.
Hmm.
Now, for the Sisters Black themselves, OC's mother, Caroline, was the eldest. She was born in 1847 to parents John Baptist Wardlaw and Mary Elizabeth Goodall Wardlaw. John was a minister and South Carolina Supreme Court Justice. Caroline's sister, Mary Elizabeth Long, came a year later, followed real quick by Virginia Oceana.
Mm.
There was another sister born later named Bessie Gertrude and 2 brothers, John Banks and Albert Goodall, but these 3 siblings are not integral to the rest of the story, but they do exist, so I just wanted to mention them. You won't hear about them again.
Bessie Gertrude just feels like a real mean name.
Right?
That just feels like you're setting that child up to be teased.
Right?
It-
But then again, I guess at the time, Gertrude was a pretty common name.
Also, Betsy Gertrude?
Bessie.
Bessie Gertrude sounds like such a gnarly name to have screamed at you when you've done something wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some weird names in this one. Oceana, I think, is great.
Love that
Yeah.
Who thinks about that? But I mean,
Right?
yeah, apparently it was a family name.
Oh.
So, because, Virginia Oceana.
Gotcha.
And then I believe it was their grandmother's name. Anywho. So the 3 eldest sisters were inseparable. And all 3 of them got teaching credentials from Wesleyan Female College.
Okay.
And the 3 Wardlaw ladies were as thick as thieves. And they were known for their always being together, like triplets, as well as their odd behavior. And like I said earlier, always fucking wearing black. And not just black.
Sounds-
We're talking full-on mourning veils, cloaks, capes,
Gloves, I'm
dripping in
assuming.
fucking lace. Very eccentric.
Yeah.
Very eccentric.
They
And
sound
there
like
are
a
photos.
Victorian coven.
There are... I'll get there.
Yeah!
There are photos, and they're fucking amazing.
Witches!
So, but let's remember, they are monsters.
Yes.
Yeah, they are. So, Caroline and Mary would be the only 2 to marry. Caroline married Colonel Martin, and now he's dead, and Mary named a man named Fletcher Tillman Snead. And if that name sounds familiar, it should, because Caroline's daughter, Oceana Snead, it's because she would eventually marry her first cousin,
Of
Mary's
course.
son, Fletcher Wardlaw Snead, but we will get to that.
We all know that nothing bad ever comes from incest.
So there you
Never.
go.
Ever.
Well, now for the tea. In 1870,
I'm ready.
in 1876, the aunt of the sisters, Oceana Seaborn Goodall Pollock,
Good Jesus.
who was their mother's sister,
I need a vision board
right,
of this.
purchased a school in Christiansburg, Virginia,
I need to see it.
the Montgomery Collegiate Institute. She was a
Okay.
teacher there and bought it when it went up for auction. The
Oh.
1880 census shows Mrs. Oceana Pollock and her niece, Virginia Wardlaw, and nephews, John B. and Albert G. Wardlaw, all living at the school, Virginia being listed as a teacher there. In 1900, Mrs. Pollock was getting older, deeded the school to her sister Mary and her daughter Virginia.
I'm getting some real Suspiria vibes.
Yeah, they took it
Yes.
over and renamed it Montgomery Women's College, made it an all-ladies school. The dorms were refurbished, the curriculum was updated, and Virginia was teaching. Shit was great.
When do they start dancing?
Virginia's sister Mary Snead showed up to the school after her husband died, and she was hired to be Virginia's assistant. Then, in 1901, after Caroline's husband's death, she and her daughter Ocie showed up. Shit gets weird.
Of course.
Caroline was hired on to be in charge of the school funds, but by the end of 1901, for whatever reason, she had taken over the administration of the school. She made sudden changes to the curriculum, moved students from one classroom to another for no apparent reason, and in a weird fucking twist, installed up to 3 padlocks on certain doors. Didn't say why.
Huh.
And when all 3 of the sisters walked through the halls, well, students got weirded out and rumors started to spread, and rightfully so, because here's these 3 women gliding through the halls looking like fucking Ya Llorona. Like,
Yeah?
right? They supposedly, in the rumors, would just show up in students' rooms at night muttering incantations,
Nice.
right? And a student supposedly gave birth to a child out of wedlock with the baby disappearing.
Oh, no.
And on more than one occasion, it was said that the Sisters Black would hire a man to drive them to the Evergreen Cemetery after sunset, where Caroline, Mary, and Virginia were said to have gathered around various graves, hold hands, and chant until dawn. I like to think that it went down that way too.
Yeah.
I mean,
It feels right.
right?
In my soul
Yeah. So,
and bones.
right? So Carolyn, it turns out, wasn't so great with money, and she was running the school into the fucking debt. So,
Well, good.
you know, there's that.
And she's the one that randomly has $700,000 from the
Yes.
mysterious deaths of her husband and child.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
I love it when
And she is the eldest.
I
So
love
think,
when that happens.
Yeah, I think that her sisters seem to defer to her a lot. I think she's the ringleader of the
choices.
3.
She's like, "Hey, I just randomly have so much money in Victorian times and I'm going to be real bad at spending it." What were you spending it on?
Padlocks.
Gotta be. I feel like
Black lace.
I feel like she's
Gowns.
a Victorian witch version of Lucille Bluth.
Yeah.
She's like, "It's one padlock, Ocie. What could it cost?"
$10.
That is you know what?
That's
Nailed it.
Thank you.
Nailed it.
Here's
Winning.
$20. Go see a play in the park.
Nailed it. This is exactly how I envision her too.
Go see a Shakespeare.
That's it. There it is.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Oh, Christ.
Because this doesn't get any less eccentric or dramatic, so I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah, I'm just picturing now, like,
What was their kid's name?
the boy
The
child?
little boy, yeah.
Hugh.
Hugh? I don't care for Hugh.
I don't particularly care for Hugh. Now in my head, he fell down the stairs doing the chicken impression.
Fuck yeah, I did! Fuck yeah, I did!
Caw, and just tumble.
And all you see is this black Victorian boot go boom.
just Ocie in the corner. Hey, brother. Because in my head, for whatever reason, she's the buster of this plan.
Oh, for
Hey,
fucking
Hermana.
fuck's sake. And if you guys don't watch Arrested Development, I don't know what's wrong with you.
Oh,
Fuck
bless it.
you is what I say.
Anywho, so
Oh, yes.
Caroline's running out of money, black lace and padlocks, so she's going to go back to what she knows best.
Oh, boy.
Now, Mary's son, Fletcher, and her other son, John, moved to Linville, Tennessee, where they opened a sawmill together.
Okay.
There, the brothers met and courted two sisters, Anna and Vashti McLaurin. Vashti, right?
Love it.
That feels...
Vashti and Anna.
Huh.
I know.
That doesn't feel like a name that should belong to someone with the last name McLaren.
Yeah, well, it did. So, they would later become their wives. The girls were the daughters of a prominent local lawyer named J.R. McLaurin. Fletcher married Vashti in 1899, and John married Anna in 1903.
And those two are sisters.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys are brothers.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, that's always a weird thing.
Well,
Weirder when they're both twins.
Caroline Wardlaw went and visited John in Linville and insisted that he return with her to Christiansburg to teach at the school. John's wife Anna was not down and told him to stay, so he refused his aunt's demands.
Okay.
But Caroline was not taking no for an answer, so John ended up having the police remove her from the home.
Oh, no.
John had told his neighbors, when asked about the incident, that he wouldn't allow Caroline to wreck his home. Well, Caroline came back a few weeks later, and John, with his tail between his legs, went back with her to the school, leaving his wife behind.
Oh.
Yeah, don't know what changed his mind, but
I have a feeling.
Anna wrote him letters, but John was now under the influence of his aunts, and Anna's health declined, and she was placed in a sanitarium.
Yeah, my feeling was that
Right, so
was coming.
John, also not doing so well. On 2 occasions, it was suspected that he attempted suicide or was almost murdered. Tomato, tomato.
Oh.
Okay. So one version was when one time, was when he fell off a train near Roanoke during a trip with Caroline. Shocking. They insisted it was an accident, but the brakeman said that he felt he had witnessed a suicide attempt. He thought he saw him jump. Well, a few weeks after that, John was pulled from an open cistern and saved just in time.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And this time it was Virginia Wardlaw who raised the alarm and explained the accident, saying that John had been taking measurements to provide water supply for the school and fell in. A week later, Virginia again raised the alarm at 8 o'clock in the morning. She found John screaming and thrashing around on the floor of his room because he was on fire.
Nice.
Literally on fire?
Literally on fire.
Oh, no.
3 hours later, John Snead died of first-degree burns. The 3 sisters insisted it was an accident, not a suicide, and that it must have happened while he was lighting his kerosene lamp. However, his entire nightshirt was soaked in kerosene.
That doesn't check out.
And hey, guess what? They had a fucking life insurance policy out on him.
Oh, shocking.
What? No.
Yeah. And they eventually received an insurance settlement in the amount of $12,000, $372,105.
Well, that feels like a convenient amount.
Isn't it?
To maybe get you out of some debt.
Yeah, and very shortly before John's death, Caroline made a trip back to Linville and insisted that Fletcher needed to go back with her to Louisville concerning some family property. Well, he went with her, and his wife Vashti would be told that he had fallen very ill in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So Vashti went to Chattanooga to care for her husband, but was refused permission to see him by Caroline.
I don't like that.
She said that he was too ill to see his wife and said that told her that I'll send him home in a week.
Mm-mm.
A week later, Fletcher did not show up. So Vashti made a second trip to Chattanooga and was told that Fletcher had been moved to a different boarding house by a Mrs. Martin. So with no other option, Vashti goes home and waits. Now, if it were me, I'd have hightailed it to that goddamn school.
Yeah.
But Vashti, being a nice little Victorian lady, went and waited. Didn't hear from Fletcher after a very long period of time, so she just filed for divorce. Dad's a lawyer, right? Fuck that guy. Turns out, Fletcher had been taken back to the college to replace his brother John to teach at the school, and contribute his income or life insurance, however you look at it, to the family coffers. Now, supposedly, Fletcher and O.C. were always close, being first cousins and all. That was according to his mother, Mary, anyway. When he first came to Christiansburg, she said that they spent most of their time together at her home. Well, Fletcher and O.C.'s relationship then evolved from the natural affection most people feel for a first cousin into a full-blown romance. Now, the sisters Black disapproved of the affair between O.C. and Fletcher.
Okay, but one of y'all married your own first cousin.
So, when O.C. turned 8... No, these are the first cousins that are about to get married.
Didn't one of them also marry their cousin? I swear you said that to me earlier.
So, well, no, O.C. married her first cousin.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So, when O.C. turned 18... they eloped, took off, and secretly got married in Louisville, Kentucky in 1906. Well, this threw a wrench in what the sisters Black had planned.
I'll bet.
By this time, Caroline had run the school totally into the ground. The sisters are broke. How? I don't know. What's she doing with all this fucking money?
Right? That's what I'm saying.
I mean, I realize it takes a lot to run a school like that,
but also that's
Jesus
a
Christ,
lot
you've got
of
like
money.
$1 million fucking dollars at this point.
Also, if it's that exclusive of a school, aren't like the girls paying
right?
to be there, like tuition?
How many gowns do you have, Caroline?
Good God. It reminds me of, I just read a thing recently where Billie Eilish bought 70 boxes of Fruit Loops because she did not know how much things cost. Like, she bought 70 boxes on accident.
Oh.
She did not know how much things were supposed to cost. I'm like, oh, sweet summer child.
She's not been to a grocery store before?
Well, it's like a few years ago, Bill Gates was quoted as thinking that a gallon of milk cost $20. Basically, how much could it cost?
How out of touch?
Oh, incredibly.
These people
Billionaires, insanely.
Huh.
Insanely.
Season and eat the rich.
Wow.
Love it.
So,
Thank you.
anywho.
No, let's talk about this more.
So, Virginia mortgaged everything she could to try and save the school, but it went belly up and closed.
Yeah.
So the sisters took what little money they had left, I don't know what these three bitches are doing, and they headed to New York to live with O.C. and Fletcher, where creditors could not find them. So now they decided that the marriage between the two cousins was okay because it served their needs, of course.
Naturally.
So O.C. and Fletcher had a second ceremony with their family in attendance on January 13th, 1908, which was 1 month before the birth of their first child.
Oh.
Right. Nearly broke, though, the three sisters, O.C. and Fletcher, made their home at a small tenement at 1693 East 48th Street in the Flatlands neighborhood of Brooklyn. By this time, O.C. had 4 policies on her life, totaling $32,000, and Fletcher had one for $24,000, which in total combined would be $1,585,493.
Good God.
The beneficiaries, however, were not any of the sisters Black.
Oh.
They were O.C. was the beneficiary for Fletcher,
Mm-hmm.
and for O.C. it was her grandmother, Mary Elizabeth Wardlaw, the sisters Black's mother.
Oh.
O.C. gave birth on February 9th, 1908. The baby, Mary Alberta Snead, unfortunately only lived 2 days.
Oh.
And O.C. was pregnant again by the fall.
Ooh.
And then in April, Fletcher vanished. The sisters told O.C. that they had found a suicide note and that he must have killed himself. The three sisters attempted to collect Fletcher's insurance because, of course, on O.C.'s behalf, but the agency issuing it wouldn't pay because there was no proof that Fletcher was dead.
That's
They
a good
didn't know
point.
that, right? Meanwhile, O.C. wasn't doing well with her pregnancy. Instead of gaining weight, she seemed to be losing it, most assuming over the disappearance of her husband. And Caroline started to talk of how relieved they would be financially if they could just get O.C.'s life insurance money. You are not slick, madam. This is your child we're talking about.
She's right there.
Right?
Again, she's like Buster Bluth.
Yes.
Her children are never seen or heard.
Yes.
She's
Caroline is Lucille, but with a murderous tendency.
Yeah.
So on July 18th, 1910, O.C. gave birth to a very frail little boy
No.
and named him David Pollock Snead. A neighbor named Ethel Moore had assisted with the delivery, and according to Ethel, O.C. appeared very weak and hungry. She would later say that when the sisters Black were out of earshot, that she would tell Ethel that her mother and aunts were starving her to death and dosing her with morphine.
Oh, no.
After the birth, a Dr. William Pettit came to visit O.C. and check on the baby. His initial diagnosis was that she and the infant both needed nourishment and rest, and other than that, O.C. seemed typical healthy young lady. But when he made a second visit, he found that O.C. and the baby were weaker than before. Dr. Pettit came a third time because he was concerned, and he was refused entry by the sisters. Well, the good doctor was having none of their bullshit, and he went in through a fucking window.
Yeah, doctor that guy.
Yep, where he found O.C. shockingly thin and listless.
Oh.
Dr. Pettit lost his shit and informed the three sisters that O.C. desperately needed a postpartum operation. I'm guessing he thought maybe infection or maybe, not all the placenta came out. There was no clarification on that, just that she needed the operation. And he said that it might save her life, but it also might kill her.
Oh, but they were like, okay, take her.
The sisters immediately agreed. Oh, well, let me back up. So the operation, they said no because they didn't have the money. And that's when the doctor said, well, the operation might save her life, but it also might kill her. Then they immediately agreed. Dr. Pettit performed the operation on O.C. and again instructed the women on her care and said he'd come back to remove the stitches. The sisters then suggested that the doctor should inform O.C. that she would die soon and advise her to change her insurance policy. They then told him that O.C. would bequeath him $1,000 for his services if he did. This, my friends, was the final straw for the good doctor, and he's like, these bitches are fucking murderous nuts. So he goes to the police, who did not a fucking thing.
Shocking.
Not a fucking thing. So, on September 9th, 1909, Virginia, in all her black-veiled glory, visited a Brooklyn attorney named Julius Carrabba. She asked him to alter her dying niece's will to change the beneficiary after having her child from grandmother to child. Mr. Carrabba, of course, refused to do anything without O.C.'s consent, so Virginia asked him to come to the home to get the permission. According to him in a later statement, O.C., he said, looked like a corpse and appeared to be in a coma.
Oh, I don't like that.
Virginia and Caroline hovered over the bed and chanted what he thought were prayers. Suspect.
And highly questionable.
Caroline abruptly stopped chanting and asked O.C. if she wanted to make a new will. And Mr. Carrabba was startled when the appearingly catatonic woman answered, yes, I do.
Oh, it's like that scene in Seven where it's just the guy in the bed and all of the air fresheners and you think he's dead and then he starts coughing and you jump every time, even though it's been 20 years. You know it's coming. It still gets you.
So he looked at Caroline and said, my God, woman, this girl needs a doctor. To which she responded by saying they couldn't afford it. He then said, well, what about food? She's starving. He was then told that they couldn't afford that either. So Carrabba, being a quick-thinking, lawyery kind of guy, said he will write them a check, but he needed a pen, hoping that the sisters would have to leave the room to go get one, which they did, because they remind me of like the sisters in Macbeth, where they go everywhere together.
Right.
They are one. And so they leave the room, and O.C. looked at him and said, I'm dying. I see a Masonic pin on you, and I believe I can trust you. For God's sake, please don't leave me. She then reached under her pillow and said, here, this is my will. Take it and make yourself executor. Do anything you like, but for God's sake, take care of my child.
Oh.
So he put her will in his coat pocket, and the sisters come back with a pen. He wrote them a check for $5, which is the equivalent of $141 today.
Oh, wow.
For food. When they took the check, the sisters had an offer for Mr. Carrabba. They offered him 2 of O.C.'s insurance policies for a total of $7,000. I said that right. Which is $198,185 today, to name them as O.C.'s beneficiaries. Julius had zero intention of doing anything of the sort, but he played along, being concerned for OC's life. He placated the bitches, saying he needed to make sure the policies were valid, so the next day, Virginia and Caroline went with him to the insurance company, and they were told that even though the policies were valid, they needed consent from the current beneficiary to change it, since OC was not in any condition to make a decision.
And he's mysteriously gone.
Well, OC's beneficiary is her grandmother.
Oh, that's right.
And the Sisters Black were not about to let their mother in on any of the fucking shenanigans of fuckery that have been going on. So nothing ever came of that. So he still had her will.
Okay, good.
In early November, Caroline had asked the milkman if he would like to make some extra money. Of course, he agreed and asked what the job was. And she said to be ready to take a sick woman to the country in his wagon the next day. It didn't matter where in the country as long as he got rid of her. And the milkman was like, nah, no thank you, ma'am.
No.
Right. So Caroline offered a plumber named John Barnes the same deal. He also declined. But on November 13th, he agreed to move some belongings from the Brooklyn apartment to a hotel in Manhattan, where Mary and Caroline suddenly decided to move. And Virginia rented a house at 89 East 14th Street in East Orange, New Jersey. But she didn't bother turning on any of the utilities. So baby David wasn't thriving, and the sisters, against OC's will, took him to St. Christopher's Hospital. Virginia told OC that they were going to try out that new house in Jersey to see if they liked it, and then Caroline and Mary would join them there later. This poor girl had to know that some shit was about to go down.
Yeah, I don't like this.
Right? The weird separating like this.
Especially when they can't go to one room without the other two.
Right. A plan is afoot.
They're scheming.
And at 4:30 p.m. on November 29th, 1909, the police station in East Orange, New Jersey, received a telephone call. The woman calling had asked for a coroner, saying there had been an accident. The officer explained that there wasn't one available and advised her to contact a local doctor. And a half hour later, the woman telephoned Dr. Herbert H. Simmons, who was the deputy county physician. The woman told Dr. Simmons that a girl had killed herself in the bathtub. Dr. Simmons would later say that when he got there, he thought that he had actually been sent to the wrong house. It looked vacant. He said that the lawn was totally overgrown, paint was chipping off the outside, there were no curtains on the walls, or on the windows, nothing, and so he knocked anyway just to be sure. But then the door creaked open, and he saw this woman dressed head to toe in black, lace veil, cloak, the whole fucking thing.
Nope.
And all she said was, "This way."
Ah!
Like fucking Lurch from the Addams Family.
That gave me the goosebumps, and my nip noops were
Right?
like, absolutely not.
Yeah, I'm going to head right out that door.
Right? So
Bye.
not quite sure what to expect. So when I say these women wear veils, like it's full on,
Oh, yeah.
like
Like a funeral veil.
Sarah Winchester,
Yeah,
like a full on mourning veil.
yeah.
All of them, all the time.
No,
Right?
I don't
I know.
like it.
So where was I? Okay, so
I think at the creepiest part of your story, this way.
yeah, there we go.
Right.
So Doc Simmons followed her, not sure what the fuck to expect. He said there was nothing in the house, which he thought was odd.
Yes.
There was no fire, no heat source. The woman in black, with a candle, led him upstairs to the bathroom,
Absolutely not.
where he saw a bathtub half filled with about a foot of water, and just under the surface lay the corpse of a young woman, Oceana Snead.
Not enough water.
Right. The doctor immediately started to ask questions, which she was totally not even okay with. He had no idea who the woman in black was, nor the dead girl, so when he asked her, her response was, "You'll learn that soon enough."
Ma'am, this is a situation
This isn't
where
how we do this, madam.
this is not how crime works, ma'am.
Yeah.
Meow.
Ma'am.
Meow.
Excuse you.
So Dr. Simmons knew something was fucking off, and he couldn't get much information from the woman, and she didn't seem fazed by the dead girl in the tub.
Oh, you
She
don't say.
claimed to have last seen the girl that morning when she said she was going to have a bath and a long nap. The woman said that she hadn't bothered to check on her all day because it wasn't unusual for her to sleep the day away.
That felt like a really weird, like, on the nose. Be like, she
Right?
was going to have a bath and a long nap.
Yep.
And
Yeah, right.
Well, the doc wasn't fooled, and he knew the body had been dead way longer than that. He looked at her and said, "This girl has been dead a full 24 hours. I'll have to call the police." So the doubtful doctor started to leave the bathroom when he noticed the girl's clothing was folded nearby on the floor and there was a note pinned to it. It said, "Last year, my little daughter died. Other near and dear kindred, too, have gone to heaven. I long to go there, too. I have been ill and weak a very long time now. Death will be a blessed relief to me in my sufferings. When you read this, I will have committed suicide. My sorrow and pain in this world are greater than I can endure. O.C.W.M. Snead." So Dr. Simmons calls the police, and Detective Officer William H. O'Neill was assigned to investigate the scene. When he got to the house, he spoke with the woman in black, and she said her name was Miss Virginia Oceana Wardlaw, and she was the aunt of the victim, and her name was Oceana Wardlaw Martin Snead, daughter of Mrs. Caroline Wardlaw Martin and wife of Fletcher Wardlaw Snead. But everyone called her O.C. Very long title.
It's like fucking Daenerys Targaryen.
I know. So Virginia told Officer O'Neill that O.C. hadn't been well since her first child died in 1908 and that she had grown despondent since her husband's disappearance in April. The only light in O.C.'s life was her newborn son, but he was sickly and recently admitted to the hospital. Detective O'Neill asked why the house was bare, and Virginia told him that they had just moved in and none of their belongings had been delivered yet. He then asked for a pen and ink, and Virginia said, "No, there's none in the house." Well, slick-ass Detective O'Neill was onto her shit. His response was, "Is that so? Then when did this girl write her suicide note?
Ayy.
And how does it happen that she had a soap and wash rag?" Well, 62-year-old Virginia Wardlaw was then arrested on suspicion of murder and taken to Essex County Jail.
Good.
O.C.'s death was identified as drowning with starvation as a secondary cause. Virginia, however, stuck to her story. She said she hadn't seen O.C. since the morning of her death and had no reason to go upstairs that day, not even to use what was the only toilet in the house. It was where the bathtub was, When asked, she also said she had no idea where her sisters or Fletcher were. Well, y'all, he was in fucking Canada.
Oh.
During the investigation, it was found that Fletcher was working under the name of John Lucas as a dishwasher up in the fucking Canada.
Huh.
Now, he had no explanation for why he left. I'll assume it's because he wanted to live.
Yeah.
Although why he didn't take his pregnant wife with him, I don't know, unless the aunts made him leave.
Also possible.
Right. The police did not extradite him, and he lived the rest of his days. The end. On December 16th, 1909, officers arrested Mary Snead, O.C.'s aunt and mother-in-law, in a New York hotel room. When they asked her what she thought the outcome of her arrest would be, she said, "It will end in death. I would welcome death. I'm old. I can't help anyone. I am of no use." Well, she was charged with murder and placed in a cell near Virginia's. That same day, O.C.'s mother, Caroline Martin, in a Manhattan hotel under the alias Mrs. Maybrick, was arrested. Her black gown and veils, however, are what gave her away.
Weird.
Right. So when her room was searched, investigators found several notes, all nearly identical to the one pinned to O.C.'s dress. Officer O'Neill decided to search the sisters' previous home for clues. The janitor let them into the tenement there in Brooklyn and helped him in his search. The rooms were just as bare as the East Orange house. There was broken bits of furniture, and they noticed some weird, suspicious dark stains on the living room floor. And in the kitchen, when they opened the oven, they found a burnt bundle.
Oh.
The pile was a mass of yellow hair and bones.
Oh, no.
One of the bones appeared to be a small femur, and there were
Aw.
parts of what looked to be an infant's skull.
Oh.
Now, baby David was actually in the hospital So it wasn't him, but he did die shortly after the arrests and was eventually buried next to O.C. So I'm assuming this was the firstborn baby, little Mary. I think the aunts just put her in the fucking oven. I told you, these women are monsters.
That's fucking brutal.
Right?
Yikes.
So Caroline wouldn't speak to law enforcement or media without her lawyer present, and she forbade her sisters to talk as well. However, the evidence against the sisters were building up. There were several life insurance policies that had been taken out, the several suicide notes in her mother's possession, and there were the witnesses of the family's treatment of O.C. prior to her death, the doctor, a lawyer. Add in all the suspicious bullshit since the death of Caroline's husband, and well, all three women were rightfully formally charged with first-degree murder. As they awaited trial, Virginia Wardlaw started feeding her meals to the rats in the penitentiary.
There it is.
Wow.
You got there.
And she died of starvation in August of 1910.
Good.
Her attorney said Miss Virginia O. Wardlaw starved herself to death in the same manner as did OCWM Snead, with whose murder she was charged. Both the young woman and Miss Wardlaw were driven to the course by some mastermind that seemed to have full control over them. The press assumed that he meant Caroline, although he would not confirm nor deny.
I wouldn't either.
Caroline's the ringleader here. After Virginia's death, Caroline started to act erratically. Relatives asked for her to be declared insane. During her insanity hearing, she gave her account of what had happened the night O.C. died. She said that her child was in a pitiable state and had become a morphine addict that daydreamed of suicide. She said that the night O.C. died, she had accidentally given her daughter a morphine overdose, and in an attempt to revive her, Caroline put her into the cold water of the bathtub. It didn't work. She freaked out and left. The judge, however, saw through her bullshit and, along with the court shrink, declared her mind was sound and that she would stand trial. On January 9th, 1911, Caroline pled guilty to involuntary manslaughter. The judge sentenced her to 7 years in prison. She lost her ever-loving fucking mind in the courtroom and was shrieking, not screaming, not yelling, shrieking, "I do not deserve it," and she had to be carried from the courtroom still sitting in her chair shrieking.
Oh, that's fucking terrifying.
Can you just imagine, like,
I
a fucking banshee
and I hate it.
in black lace, head to toe,
I don't love
shrieking?
that. I don't.
Right?
I don't want it.
Well, the last and final sister, Mary, somehow escaped all consequence. So because Caroline's conviction was manslaughter and not murder, Mary couldn't have been an accessory before the fact.
Oh.
So Mary was a free woman. Soon after entering prison, Caroline was actually transferred to the insane asylum, where she stopped eating and died on June 20th, 1913. An autopsy showed some clogging of the arteries, but they couldn't say whether her death was suicide or that. They just sort of let it go. O.C. Snead is buried in Mount Hope Cemetery in Westchester, New York, near her father and her 2 children. And Mary Snead died in California in 1937 with what I'm hoping was a very fucking guilty conscience.
Yes.
And that is the story of the Sisters Black and the murder of Oceana Snead.
Incredible. How is this not a movie?
Right?
In my head, we've got Jessica Walters, we've got Jessica Lange, and we've got either Kathy Bates.
Absolutely.
Or Frances
McDormand.
No. But also a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Myrtle Snow.
Oh, Myrtle Snow. Yeah, so basically the cast of
Conroy.
Coven.
Frances Conroy.
Basically the cast of Coven.
Essentially.
Right? Yeah, so there's not a whole lot of sources on this story, and some of the sources differ, so yeah, it was kind of hard because of chupacabra holes, but, you know, but I was just like, this can't be real, but it is. There's newspaper clippings, there's photographs of Oceana, like, this is all 100% fucking real.
That is nuts.
Right? And just the photos of fucking Caroline, I'm like, unfucking believable, of her being carted out of the hotel. I'm just like, what? Look at that. Like, can I have your dress and your veil and all of it, please.
Give unto
So,
me,
right?
you're that.
And Oceana, she was so pretty.
I'll have to look
She
up
was so
pictures.
pretty. So my sources were many a wiki,
Uh-huh.
medium.com, Heather Monroe, New York Daily News, Mara Bovson, and Roanoke Times, Jason McNeil.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
It's a good one, I know. But there's a picture of Oceana Snead and her little baby, and oh my god, he's so cute.
His name was David?
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, that was my kind of not bummer. So you have a real fucking bummer, huh?
I do have a super bummer today.
Great.
I do.
At least mine offered some comedy.
It did.
Even though they were fucking horrible monsters and this poor girl got
They were.
overdosed and starved to death.
Oh,
But I know.
I hate it.
I do too. Fucking monsters, these women, but
But truly, I do
I
want to see a
know.
movie of it.
I know.
Or even a mini-series.
Caroline, that is Lucille Bluth. It just is. I know. It's just, and they're just so eccentric and fluffy and black lace. Anyway, so.
I need that
I
movie.
am, what on fucking earth could, oh God, fuck. Okay.
Do you know?
No, you know,
okay.
you
She's
know.
just
I'm
nervous.
just, it's her reaction.
Yeah.
Something is about to go down. Something is about to go down.
Something wicked this way comes.
Oh, shit.
For sure. So,
All right.
The origin story of bedknobs and broomsticks. Here we go.
so,
Oh, God.
like we said earlier, today is the day.
Yeah.
100 episodes down.
Yep.
This is bananas.
Yes.
That's a lot of numbers.
Yeah.
So by now, y'all are well aware that I love to commemorate such occasions with special stories. Today is no exception.
Oh, boy.
For something big and monumental like this, I needed a story to match.
Okay.
Which is why I'm going to tell y'all probably the biggest story yet.
Oh, God, fuck.
I've covered Geen, Gacy, Nilsson, Coral. Today I'm going to tell you about the reason why you should always lock your fucking doors.
Oh!
The walk-in killer. The valley intruder.
Oh, no.
The Night Stalker.
The monster from my fucking childhood. Oh,
Richard
boy.
fucking Ramirez.
Yes! Yeah. All right.
Richard fucking Ramirez.
Wow. Yeah, and yes, I get it now, why it's
Yep.
going to be a two-parter.
Yep. Also, I wore these pants for a reason.
Uh-huh.
They're the ones that make me uncomfortable because one of his mugshots is actually right by my vagina, and I don't love it.
Is somebody on your vagina?
Richard Ramirez is horrifyingly close to it. I'll show you in a minute.
I like Holmes is on your knee.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Yeah. Oh, so is Dahmer.
Yep.
Nice.
Gacy is right there.
All right.
So, Ricardo Leyva Munoz Ramirez
Oof.
was born to Mexican immigrants Julian, a former Juarez police officer who found work in El Paso as on the railroad, and Mercedes Ramirez in El Paso, Texas, on February 29th. Some places say 28th because leap year. 1960. Richard was the youngest of 5 children, joining siblings Robert, Ruth, Joseph, and Reuben, all of whom had various birth defects, quote-unquote, ranging from respiratory difficulty to bone deformities, according to A&E.
That's weird.
They were caused by their mother's prolonged exposure to the chemicals and pigments she mixed while working in a boot factory during her pregnancies.
There it is.
Yeah. There was also the lingering pollution from nuclear bomb tests that had been done nearby in the 50s, which
NBD, right?
could also have had a negative impact on Mercedes and her children.
Yeah.
When Richard was 2, a dresser fell on him, knocked him out, and sliced open his forehead, resulting in a gash that needed 30 stitches.
Ouch.
When he was 5, he was knocked out again, this time after getting hit in the head with a swing.
Okay.
The following year, he started having grand mal seizures and was diagnosed with temporal lobe epilepsy, which can be caused by head or brain injuries.
Wow.
When Richard started school, he'd hoped to play sports, but because of his epilepsy, he wasn't allowed. He did briefly play football on one of his school teams, but because of his seizures, they're like, yeah, no. As a kid with epilepsy, I can tell you having seizures in public is not fun.
Yeah, no.
Or
I
safe.
bet.
Or
Yeah.
great. I think it was actually the last seizure I had. I had performed with my dance team in high school at a basketball game, and when we went downstairs to change, I fell off of the bench onto the concrete floor,
Owie.
having a seizure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sucked.
Not good.
It was not good. But
Not
I
good
think
at
that
all.
was the last one I had. I think it was 2001.
Yeah.
So it was around that time that Richard saw his father beat his older brother, Reuben. It's fairly well documented that Julian Ramirez had a horrible temper and was prone to violent outbursts against his family. All of them. Wife, children, and himself.
Okay.
So despite being devout Catholics, Richard himself was an altar boy. They, as a family, had issues. Julian even allegedly would tie Richard to a cross in the cemetery as a form of punishment. And despite being terrified of his father, Richard would eventually sleep in that cemetery to avoid Julian's wrath.
Wow.
He would also later claim to have witnessed his father beat himself with a hammer during one of his outbursts.
Jesus Christ.
Beat himself?
Yeah, so he took a hammer to himself.
Oh.
Again, this is according to Richard Ramirez talking about his father, but...
Grain of salt. Understood. No one ever came forward in his family to corroborate or to say yeah? Or we'll get there.
They don't really talk about him.
So,
A
yeah,
lot.
clearly
Understandable.
he was, a bad guy.
Well, I mean, the family doesn't talk about Richard.
Got it.
So
Okay.
they don't really talk to media. Not that I could find.
Right. Understandable.
There we go.
How'd that go?
You know, you heard it. It was
Skidoo.
jazzy. And all that jazz. His brothers Robert and Reuben both developed drug habits.
Weird.
And they all suffered from outbursts like their father. Classmates would remember Richard as a bit unusual, but he was generally a pretty good student. Shy, a little weird,
Right.
which tracks.
Yes.
When Richard was around 9 years old, however, he began to isolate himself from his peers, and when he was 11, he started hanging out with his grown cousin Miguel, who went by Mike, and introduced Richard to weed and huffing glue.
Good times.
This is where shit really starts to go bad, and in my opinion, where the Night Stalker was born.
Okay.
Or at least that was, like, the seed was planted and fertilized at this point.
Heard.
So when Richard started to spend more time with Mike, it was right after he had returned from the Vietnam War.
Oh.
So I don't know much about Mike's life pre-Vietnam. I don't really think it matters because whatever he did or saw over there either changed him completely or brought out a monster that was already inside of him.
Okay. Yeah.
During their time together, Mike, who had been a decorated Green Beret in the Army, started showing his young cousin Polaroids of the, it's so bad, of the Vietnamese women that he claimed to have raped, murdered, and mutilated while he was overseas.
Christ.
One picture was of Mike proudly holding up the head of a woman that he decapitated.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that.
Yeah.
Okay.
In an interview with A&E, Dr. Scott Bond said that what seems to happen with some serial killers, and it happened with Jeffrey Dahmer, the BTK Strangler, and Bundy, is that right around puberty, sex and violence fuse in their minds and they become aroused by violence. When his cousin showed him these photographs, Ramirez became sexually aroused, and it was right around the age of 13. Richie, as he was called by friends and family, and since I'm neither, I won't say it again, was fascinated by his cousin's war stories. Mike would also take his cousin out into the desert and show him how to kill animals with both knives and guns.
Huh.
In May of 73, Richard was at Mike's house, hanging out, smoking some weed, when Mike's wife, Jessie, reached her breaking point after coming home from the grocery store. She confronted her husband about his continued unemployment and essentially called him a lazy stoner that needed to get a goddamn job already.
Ruh-roh.
Yeah, because he essentially spent all of his time hanging out with his barely teenage cousin,
Right.
smoking weed and not,
Right.
like... I get it, you just got back from war, but to a point...
He's a kid. You need to stop hanging out with this little kid and get your ass back to work.
That's too far. And so she was not pleased and
Fair.
had enough. Unfortunately, it turned into a fight that ended with Mike pulling a .38 revolver out of the fridge and shooting Jessie in the face,
Yeah, I saw that coming.
killing her and showering a 13-year-old Richard in blood.
Yeah, I saw that coming.
Yeah. Mike was obviously arrested, but only received a 4-year sentence at the Texas State Mental Hospital. Why? It was determined that he'd been suffering from PTSD, no shit,
No shit.
and had been found not guilty of murder by reason of insanity.
Okay.
And according to most sources, Richard did not tell his family that he was there and saw that day. While
I'm going to assume it didn't bother him.
I'm gonna say you're right. I'm gonna assume quite the opposite, and it turned him on.
Yeah, I think he got a boner.
I think he probably did. So while in jail, Mike called Julian Ramirez and asked him to go to his apartment and gather up some of Jesse's things. Richard went with his father that day and said, "That day I went back to that apartment, it was like some kind of mystical experience. It was all quiet and still and hot in there. You could smell the dried blood. Particles of dust just seemed to hover in the air. I looked at the place where Jesse had fallen and died, and I got this kind of tingly feeling. Then my father told me to look in her pocketbook for the jewelry my cousin wanted, and I dumped Jesse's pocketbook on the bed and looked through her things. It gave me the weirdest feeling. I mean, I knew her, and these were her things, and she was dead, murdered, gone, and I was touching her things. It made me feel in contact with her."
Magical. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That guy.
Yeah, right?
We all know it doesn't get better.
No, it doesn't, this fucking guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's great.
I mean, this was my childhood.
I know.
I'm
looking forward to talking about that.
Yeah.
So, after his idol's arrest, Richard started to withdraw from friends and family even more than he had before, and started spending all of his time smoking, learning how to pick locks, and hunting wild animals. Later in that year, he went to live with his sister Ruth and her husband Roberto. Now, while a change of scenery would generally be considered a good move for a budding juvenile delinquent, this wasn't the case. As it turns out, Roberto was a peeping Tom and took his teenage brother-in-law with him.
What the fucking fuck?
Yeah. Needless to say, Ruth was not pleased
What?
about any of it. She's like, number one, my husband's a fucking peeping Tom. Number two, he's taking my 13-year-old brother out peeping.
God.
I don't see the problem here.
So
You're reading this story like it's like they're doing bad stuff. Pecking
it's
up
all
on them.
great so far.
This
But
is
yeah.
just so crazy. Like,
Yeah.
all the men in his family are just shitty right now. And
Uh-huh.
all the women are just pissed.
Yeah.
Oh, man, this is just a perfect storm. It's a recipe for fucking disaster.
There's so many reasons that I have feelings.
Yeah, fair.
So he started to dabble with LSD, shrooms, and he showed an interest in petty crimes. He particularly liked to go into random homes through open windows and steal. So much so that his friends started calling him Ricky the Thief and Fingers because
Ricky
he
the
loved to steal.
What up, Fingus?
His childhood best friend, Eddie Milam, said, "I did start seeing something going wrong with Ricky Ramirez. I think what really messed him up was the acid. He would do a lot of acid. Stealing, I noticed the stealing, and then he started as a peeping Tom and things like that.
Okay.
So before dropping out of high school at 17, he failed the 9th grade twice.
Oh.
Richard got a job as a bellboy at a local Holiday Inn. And I think he did like cleaning, maintenance, just like little handyman jobs.
Right.
They're like, hey, go fix this. Hey, go clean that. And helping people with their luggage. He seemed to be doing okay until he was given a master key to all of the rooms.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. After that, he started breaking into guests' rooms to steal from them while they slept.
Oh, God.
And he also would come back to the hotel when he was off work to sneak into rooms and stare at people.
That's horrifying.
It really, truly is. So eventually he was fired. Again, shocking. After he attempted to rape a woman in her room while she was on vacation.
Oh, he's how old now?
17. Or somewhere around 17, yeah. Fortunately,
Going for it.
her husband came back and kicked the ever-loving shit out of Richard before anything worse happened. Like, he spent days in the hospital.
Fair.
Because he got the shit kicked out of him.
Good.
Agreed. The couple went home, and since they declined to return from out of state to testify against Richard in court, all of the charges were dropped.
Ah, bummer.
Also, he was underage.
He's a minor, yeah.
According to friend 𝘳𝘰𝘶𝘨𝘩, he said he was fired, he was dismissed, due to the cause that he had tried to molest 2 little kids that were going up the elevator.
Oh, Jesus.
I could find no information about that, just the attempted rape.
Right.
So whether this is something that I didn't find in my research or isn't known outside of 𝘳𝘰𝘶𝘨𝘩 saying it, I don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised if it were true.
Oh, I wouldn't either.
And unfortunately, I will be talking about that later.
Got you.
So, after spending a little bit of time in a youth camp for juvenile delinquents, Richard was sent to LA to visit his brother Ruben. Again, a terrible idea. Ruben was super into drugs and had a penchant for burglary, so Richard took the time he spent with his brother honing his own criminal skills. According to his friend Eddie Gonzalez, Richard really liked acid and said, I know he used to like to drop acid. He was here in my house when he was about 18 and had dropped 3 tabs of acid. Usually 1 tab of acid is a lot. 3, that's more than a lot.
It is more than a lot, but
especially when you're 18.
Good old Ricky the Acid King.
Yeah?
I mean, they were taking like 30.
40, I remember.
Yeah.
Too many PCPs.
Too many PCPs. But yes, 1 is a lot.
Never
3 is
too
even...
many PCPs.
I think the story of Ricky Casso will...
with that statement. Never too many PCPs.
I think Ricky Casso's story proves that statement wrong.
No.
Yes.
No, that's an outlier.
No.
It's an outlier.
Well, it's because people aren't doing that many PCPs and seeing dragons in the forest and murdering other children.
Touche.
It's my guess.
Prove it.
Give me time. So yeah, that's a lot of acid. In 1978, Richard Ramirez officially moved to LA. He split his time between LA and San Francisco. He was essentially a drifter, either sleeping on the streets or staying in seedy motels. In 1983, his brother Ruben helped him steal a car, which ended up in a brief stint in jail, which is where his fascination with Anton LaVey and Satanism began.
Oh, okay.
Good old Anton.
There we go.
He's always coming in.
Always. If it's a San Francisco story in the 70s, he's going to be there somewhere.
Fucking Anton.
But Richard was so enamored by LaVey that he went to San Francisco to meet him.
Oh.
LaVey would call this exact meeting after Ramirez's eventual arrest and said that, when I met Richard Ramirez, he was one of the nicest, most polite young men you'd ever want to meet.
Oh, Anton. Anton.
Fuck off.
Maybe he was to him.
Probably, because was like, Anton LaVey was like his fucking idol, aside from Satan himself.
Also, why do I get the feeling that this dude was probably, like, to the general public, not bad from person to person? You know? Like, not an
Richard
outright
Ramirez?
dick?
No.
Yeah, but I'm sure he was great to Anton LaVey. I mean,
To Anton LaVey, yes. And, I mean, it's going to have to be in part 2, but there's kind of psychiatric explanation behind that.
Okay.
So Richard would later recall the moment his obsession with Satan began, stating that another inmate had asked him, "Why worship the good guy when the things you do aren't so good?"
Ooh.
Yeah. The inmate continued.
Deep.
It was the inmate.
I like that quote.
Deep.
He continued by saying that it only made sense for the bad guys to worship the devil.
Yeah, you lost me there. I like the first part. I didn't like the second part.
He's like, well, if you're doing all these terrible things, it would only make sense for you to worship the devil. And Richard Ramirez was like,
Yeah.
you know what? You're fucking right. So Richard believed that he had already encountered Satan's powers after his cousin Mike's ex-mother-in-law placed a hex on his father Julian, which left him in bed for a month.
Oh, she wasn't playing.
Nah.
Not even a little.
She's like, you had something to do with my daughter getting shot in the face, and I'm going to put a hex on you.
Good on her.
And Richard saw that. He's like, the devil works, and I've seen it. I seen it.
Seen it.
And this is a quote from Richard Ramirez. It's actually a couple. As far as Satan is concerned, I believe in a malevolent being. His description eludes me, but I have felt powers that are evil. And then I believe in Satan. I believe evil is a force that is beyond us, and that we just have to invite him in, and he will. Which...
He's...
unwell, clearly.
I don't think he's totally unwrong.
No. Of like,
You know,
Do you want to choose either right or wrong for that description?
I don't think he's unwrong.
I like unwrong. I think unwrong is good.
He's not wrong. He's
yeah,
not.
I like that better than a double negative. You're right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have,
right.
I have
Yeah.
a grasp on the English language.
Oh.
But yeah, you know, I mean, okay, do go on.
Okay.
We could go down the Satanism fucking rabbit hole,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean
For days.
I could do that forever. So
So his favorite bands during this time were AC/DC.
because of course.
His favorite song by AC/DC was Night Prowler,
Okay.
Oh,
which, again, on the nose. Led Zeppelin, Iron Maiden, Judas
sure,
Priest, and Black Sabbath.
Nice.
All the heavy metal bands that were
Great
considered
taste.
they were considered satanic and evil.
yes.
Also, heavy metal. I don't really feel like that's a fitting genre for that music now, but at the time, I guess it was appropriate. Because
Yeah.
now when I hear like Judas Priest, I'm like, yeah, glam metal,
Right?
into it. But that was not a thing.
Zeppelin and Sabbath together are considered like the mother and father of metal.
Yeah.
So that's almost where the term generates is from those two bands, more specifically Sabbath.
Okay.
It just evolved obviously into what we know now as metal.
Yeah, but hearing most people back in the day calling it heavy metal now makes me giggle.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
for
Right.
sure.
And that was all Satanic Panic.
And yes, that
So-
I
God damn it.
so
I know.
I rant about that for a while.
I have.
he was also a huge fan of Billy Idol's song "Flesh for Fantasy" and said it reflected his feelings.
All right.
And as for the heavy metal genre as a whole, he claimed that it gave me a sense of well-being.
Okay.
Did it?
Did it though?
I don't think you were ever well.
Fair.
So
Touche, madam.
I just have to
Touche.
throw that out there, Richard.
Right.
Also, keep in mind that this was all during the height of the Satanic Panic, and Richard Ramirez loved attention. I do truly believe that he believed in Satan, but I also feel like he really played it up after he became known as the Night Stalker, but I'll get into that a little bit later.
Agreed.
Anyway, 1984, he was arrested and briefly jailed again. Some sources say it was for possession of marijuana, and some sources say that 84 was when he stole the car. The timelines and some things get a little hazy, but in any case, upon his release was when everything went real bad.
Ruh-roh. Here it comes.
Real bad. And this... Okay. I didn't know about this one.
Okay.
And most people didn't.
Ooh.
For a very long time. So, April 10th, 1984, 9-year-old May Lee Young, she went by Linda, and her 8-year-old brother were playing at their apartment complex in San Francisco's Tenderloin district. The siblings went into the basement to search for a dollar bill that Linda's brother had lost and managed to lose track of each other for half an hour.
In a basement of a house?
It was an apartment complex.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I misheard.
So the little boy found his sister finally, hanging from a pipe.
Ooh.
She had been raped, strangled, and stabbed. But she was 9.
Good God.
But there was no evidence to point law enforcement in the direction of who had killed her. Her case went unsolved until 2009.
Wow.
When the case was reopened and DNA evidence was tested, proving that Richard Ramirez had been responsible.
Holy
Jesus
shit.
Christ.
He had been in the area at the time. Some say he lived in that apartment building, and others say that he lived like 6 blocks away. And it's assumed that he was in the basement that day looking for things to steal, and unfortunately Linda found him and he killed her.
Wrong place, wrong time.
Yep. Another person's DNA was also found at the crime scene, but a second suspect has never been named or arrested for the crime, and it's rumored that they were an adolescent at the time of the crime. Linda Leung's murder isn't considered part of the Night Stalker's reign of terror since no one knew about it for so long, but it is considered his first murder.
Wow.
The first official Night Stalker murder would take place 2 months later in LA.
Okay.
June 28th, 1984, Ramirez drove the car he'd stolen the night before into the Glassell Park neighborhood. According to Philip Carlo, who spent 3 years and over 100 hours researching and personally interviewing Ramirez, and wrote The Night Stalker, The Life and Crimes of Richard Ramirez, he said Ramirez had been desperate for money and was coming down from a coke binge when he decided to quit cruising Skid Row and head into Glassell Park to find someone to rob. And apparently he liked to use coke intravenously.
Okay.
Oh.
Which...
Woof.
Yikes,
Doesn't surprise me.
friend. Not
It's
at all.
not shocking, but
Yeah.
God damn.
Still.
It's like when you hear someone likes to shoot heroin between their toes. It's just
Right.
like, God damn,
Like,
dude.
God,
Or in their dick.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's like, fuck, can you be
just
slightly more normal about it? Good God.
Right?
just all terrible. So
I'm sorry if any of our listeners shoot heroin between their fingers and toes. I didn't mean to offend.
please, please don't do it.
Yeah, knock it off if you're doing that.
Make better choices.
Do heroin like a normal person.
Not at all, please.
We're terrible people.
Yep.
Oh, Lord.
Do go on.
So the person that he decided to rob was 79-year-old Jenny Vinkow.
Jenny!
She'd moved to LA a few years prior so that her son Jack could keep an eye on her. He was worried about her health. Jack lived on the 2nd floor in a unit directly above his mother's.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So that night, Ramirez climbed into Jenny's home, leaving a fingerprint on the screen, and became enraged when he couldn't find anything valuable to steal. He went into her bedroom and attacked her with a hunting knife, stabbing her repeatedly. He slashed her throat so violently that she was nearly decapitated.
Good God.
Christ.
The autopsy reports would later show that she had been raped.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's all bad. Let me see, is that the right page? Yes.
Is that, by the way, the whole thing, or is that just your
That's
part
part
one?
one.
Oh,
That's
okay.
this is all the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
I just made a mark where
Got it.
to stop. It's February 21st, 1985. Sisters Christina, who was 58, and Mary, who was 71, Christina and Mary Caldwell, were attacked and killed in their Telegraph Hill home. Both women had been stabbed multiple times, with one of them being purposefully stabbed in the throat.
Pause.
Yes.
So, what date is this?
February 21st.
How much longer is it?
So June 28th, 84 to February of 85.
Okay.
And the June is the girl in the basement.
Was L.A.
That was the woman that was nearly decapitated.
in L.A.,
Yeah,
yeah.
Jenny.
And now he's back in San Francisco.
Okay.
Yep. And so it was about 8 months
Yeah,
between.
so he's going back and forth.
Yep. The crime scene was extraordinarily bloody. It was, like, covered everywhere. It was real bad. Ramirez wasn't initially charged with these murders, but would later allude to killing these women after making an offhanded comment to San Francisco Police Department homicide inspector Frank Falzone shortly after his arrest.
Okay.
In an interview, Falzone would say, Ramirez turned around and gave me that ugly smile of his and said, "Hey, Falzone, I'll bet you'd love to know about those two old ladies, wouldn't you?" It didn't register right away, so I said, "What old ladies?" He said, "The two old ladies on Telegraph Hill. There's no doubt in my mind he killed those ladies.
Oh, there
he
can't
virtually
be.
gave me a confession."
Yeah.
Shoe and palm prints were discovered at the scene, but most of them were found to belong to neighbors. And since Ramirez wasn't yet the Night Stalker, the murder of the Caldwell sisters kind of took a backseat.
Wow.
March 17th, 1985. Earlier in the month, Ramirez bought a .22 pistol from someone off of the street.
Of course.
Which
Street
is-
pistol.
Can we please not do that?
But we don't need gun laws. Street
Never.
pistols.
Street pistols. And on the 17th, he stole a car from a gas station and followed 22-year-old Maria Hernandez to her apartment in Rosemead.
Mm-hmm.
He followed her on foot into her garage, ambushing her, pointing a gun at her face, and she instinctively raised her hands over her face as he shot at her. Mm-hmm. The bullet ricocheted off of her keys.
Whoa!
Miraculously, it just knocked her to the ground.
Holy shit!
He kicked her out of the way. She played dead as Ramirez went into the condo where her roommate, 34-year-old Dale Okazaki, was.
Okay.
Dale had heard the gunshot and crouched behind the kitchen counter when she saw Ramirez come into the house. She peeked over the counter after waiting in silence for a bit, and Ramirez shot her point blank in the head, killing her instantly.
Ah, shit.
In the documentary that I will talk about a little bit later, they said that she had put her hands on the counter, and Ramirez just was waiting for her because he knew that she was going to look, and he got closer to the counter. So when she finally,
that's
so fucked.
when she
That's
finally
so fucked.
peeked her head over, he just point blank right in between the eyes.
Oh,
It was awful. Maria, stunned but alive, figured that her attacker would flee through the garage. It's because it looks like, because it's a condo, and I think it's kind of like yours where the back part is where the garage is,
Right.
and then you have to go around
gotcha.
to get into the front, because she went in an alley like you have between
Right.
where all the garbage cans are. She went in an alley to go to the front, and when she got close to the door, Ramirez opened it and was coming out the front.
No!
I think he was just as shocked to see her as she was to see him, because he thought he
She
had
was
shot
dead.
her. Yeah. He pointed the gun at Maria again, and according to Detective Gil Carrillo, she looked at him and said, "You already shot me once. Do you really have to shoot me again?"
Oh.
He didn't. He took off. He dropped his AC/DC hat, leaving Maria with a minor injury to her hand and Dale Okazaki dead.
Oh my God. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Later that night, about an hour after this happened, I
I'll
think.
assume she never slept again. Do go on.
I'm assuming she still doesn't. That night he followed 30-year-old Silan Yu, she went by Veronica, in her car. When they came to a red light, stopped, he jumped out of his stolen car and yanked Veronica from the driver's seat through the passenger window and shot her twice
Jesus
before
Christ.
fleeing the scene. I think he shot her once in the side and then once in the back.
Did she die?
Yes.
Okay.
A man named Jorge Gallegos had been nearby at the time and found Veronica, who was still breathing at the time, and called an ambulance. There were a few people that, after they heard the shot, came out. She sadly would die on her way to the hospital.
Oh, bless it.
While in the hospital, Maria Hernandez gave a statement to the police and described her attacker. He was 5'10", thin, with black hair and dark, real scary eyes. She also said that he may have been a light-skinned Hispanic man, her words, and pointed out that he had widely spaced, rotten teeth and smelled bad. Following the autopsies...
Good description. I mean, nailed it.
Yeah. Following the autopsies of both Dale Okazaki and Veronica Yu, it was determined by the ballistics team that the bullets removed from both women more than likely came from the same gun.
Okay.
The media, as always, created a pseudo-frenzy around the cases and dubbed the killer the walk-in killer and the valley intruder.
Okay.
That was March of 85. March 27th, 85. Around 2 a.m., Ramirez returned to the Whittier home of Vincent and Maxine Zazzara. He was 64, she was 44, which he had burgled the previous year.
Oh, geez.
After creeping into the house, he approached the sleeping couple and shot Vincent in the head. Maxine woke up, and Ramirez began attacking her, binding her hands and demanding to know where they kept their valuables.
Okay, like what? I mean, where are your valuables?
I want your jewelry. I want your silver.
Right.
I want your money.
Show me your curio cabinet.
Right.
Right.
Give me them tchotchkes. So she was able to slip her restraints from her wrists and grabbed an unloaded shotgun from underneath the bed.
Ooh, if only it were loaded.
Yeah, Ramirez then shot her 3 times before grabbing a large knife from the kitchen and stabbing her multiple times. He carved shapes into her body.
Okay.
A T-shape into one of her breasts, stabbed her above the vagina multiple times, and I am so sorry. This is truly horrifying. He proceeded to remove her eyes, which he then placed inside of a jewelry box that he took with him when he left.
Okay. Okay.
So...
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Do go on.
Yep.
Yeah.
I hate it. Peter Zazzara, the couple's son, discovered his parents' body.
He never slept again.
He was not a child, so at least there's that he was, I believe, grown. But still, oh my God.
Yep. Never sleep again.
Never. During the investigation, police found the perfect imprint of a tennis shoe in one of the flower beds and on a bucket under the bathroom window, which had been used to enter the house. The prints, size 11 or 12, belonged to an Avia tennis shoe. They were promptly photographed and a cast was made. Autopsy findings showed that Maxine was mutilated post-mortem, which I guess is a small consolation prize that she didn't have to live through that.
Absolutely.
Just one more heinous thing.
Yeah.
The bullets at the scene were positively identified as belonging to the same gun that was used in the murders of Dale Okazaki and Veronica Yu.
Okay, guys, come on. Start putting it together.
Police now knew that they were dealing with a serial killer. The Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, which is not a thing anymore, coined the moniker the Night Stalker around this time. And obviously, it stuck. February to March of 85. So while these murders were taking place, there were also a handful of child abductions and sexual assaults.
Yeah.
In February, I don't know the exact date, 6-year-old Anastasia Hrona was taken from her bed by a man that she felt like she knew.
Okay.
She's like, okay, because he's like, come on, let's go. And she's like, sure. Like,
Okay.
She's like, I don't know why, but I felt like I knew him, so I thought it was safe. Put her in the car. He showed her a gun in his glove compartment, kind of as a way of making her behave. Like, he made her open the glove compartment, and then he closed it after she saw there was a gun in there, kind of like, you know. He drove her to a house she would later describe as dark and slimy.
Oh, God.
When they got to their destination, he made her get inside of a duffel bag so no one would see her and carried her into the house. She remembered hearing Madonna play while he was sexually assaulting her.
Oh, God.
And she said that something in the way that he would look at me, that it was almost like, I'm sorry that I'm doing this to you, but I'm not sorry because I'm not going to stop.
Okay.
Jesus
interesting.
Christ.
Yeah, he put her back into the duffel bag and carried her back to the car and drove her to a gas station. When he stopped the car, he told her that he wanted her to go inside and call 911 so her family could come and get her.
Oh, okay.
He let me live, she said.
Wow.
Detective Carrillo visited Anastasia later and says that he broke into tears when she told him that she would, and this is directly from the mouth of a 6-year-old girl, testify in court if it means keeping him locked up so he can't hurt any other little girls like he hurt me.
Oh, God.
It's so sad. Awful, and I hate it so much. Anastasia is also the one that would positively ID Ramirez in an eventual lineup, so she had a lot to do with putting that nail in his coffin and finally putting him in prison.
Real.
Yeah. She's in the documentary.
Okay. I've been meaning to see it. I keep seeing it. I'm like, okay.
I'll get there. February 26th, a 6-year-old Montanello girl was taken from the school playground, sexually assaulted, and then abandoned. March 11th, a 9-year-old Monterey Park boy was taken from his bed, sexually assaulted, and abandoned. March 20th, a Glassell Park girl was taken from bed, sexually assaulted, and abandoned. I'm not sure how many there were in total, but this feels like plenty to talk about.
Right. Yeah.
One is too many.
Right. This is just the gist. We don't need to know the exact number of children he fucking
traumatized forever. So the descriptions that the children gave of their abductor were all eerily similar, and Detective Carrillo started to believe that this man and the murderer he was searching for were one and the same. When he brought it up to other law enforcement officers, he was laughed at.
A la Mitzi Roberts.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't.
Because at the time, like, and I mean, even now, there was no pattern.
But
there was no.
I was just gonna say, indifferent from that case. Here is the thing about Richard Ramirez: he really didn't have an MO.
He didn't.
It's like with Dahmer.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I talking about Adam Walsh, we both absolutely not. Dahmer did not do that because you know their pattern, their likes, their tastes.
That's the thing with
Ramirez
had none.
No pattern. I mean, the first he's raping and letting all of these children go, and you're like, oh, okay, well, he doesn't kill kids. Fuck yes, he does.
He does.
He does.
Or he did and could have again.
Absolutely. You know
why he didn't kill any of those kids?
There is no rhyme or reason to why.
True.
It's all heinous and horrible.
All of it.
You can't be like, you can't see a murder and be like, oh, that's a that's a Ramirez.
Not every serial killer has that kind of MO, like Bundy and all of the girls that looked like his ex.
Yeah.
That's specific, and it's like BTK, Dahmer.
Yeah.
Ramirez was different in that way. Same with Richard Chase. Well, he was not technically a serial killer. His crimes were random. Yeah. When he could.
Yeah.
Or when he felt like his friend was telling him to.
Right. Well, but you just assume since, his actual first murder now we know was a 9-year-old girl that he raped and hung and murdered and didn't think twice fucking about it. He's letting all these young 6 and 9-year-olds go. Why? No rhyme or reason.
And it's not like Ramirez was very forthcoming with a lot of information while he was in prison.
Right. So I'm glad that this detective was like, hey, I think there's a connection here.
Oh, yeah.
But I see why they were like, oh, hell no, there's no threads to tie this together.
Exactly. But, especially for being 1985.
Yeah, but good on him for seeing something.
Detective Gil Carrillo is a fucking cool dude.
Yeah.
One of my, and I didn't write it down, but I watched the documentary twice now. And one of my favorite things, he just looks like a giant teddy bear. And that Anastasia, when she was little and he came to visit her at home, she whispered to her mother, and she told Detective Carrillo that Anastasia had said he reminded her of her teddy bear.
Oh, bless it.
He's a huge man.
Right.
And very intimidating looking, but
Good.
he seems like the sweetest man. Like, he seems like a super cool grandpa.
Right.
And the documentary covers
all of it.
It's him and Frank Salerno, the two main detectives on the Night Stalker case. And the documentary is from their perspective. So there's truly not a lot about Richard Ramirez in the documentary. Okay. It's just about the crimes. But my favorite thing is that Detective Carrillo when he was a beat cop, was nicknamed 𝘳𝘰𝘶𝘨𝘩, which means the boogeyman. Which is like, when you see him, you're like, that's hilarious. But yeah, so again, same person. He was laughed at. There were no links, so why would he think that they were committed by the same person?
Right.
Well, everyone had to eat a nice fat slice of humble pie.
Good.
When evidence was found at one of the locations where one of the little girls had been abandoned. It was a construction site that had recently poured concrete, and a shoe print was found in the drying cement. Initially, the detective that saw the print in person told Detective Carrillo that it wasn't the right size. But after some back and forth, the man realized his error, and Detective Carrillo was proven right.
Good.
So not only were they searching for a serial killer, they were also looking for a serial child abuser.
Oh, this man is a monster.
Oh, yeah.
Was.
Oh, yeah.
Just a fucking monster.
Yeah.
There's just no other...
No, there's not. May 14th, 1985.
Ramirez was evil.
Oh, yeah.
He was evil.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
May 14th, 1985, Ramirez broke into the Monterey Park home of 66-year-old Bill and 63-year-old Lillian Doe. Bill had heard the intruder and grabbed his 9mm pistol, but Ramirez was quicker and shot Bill in the face, and then proceeded to beat him after shooting him in the face.
Jesus.
He started to attack Lillian, bound her with thumb cuffs, and started looking around the house for things to steal. He came back into the bedroom where he proceeded to violently rape Lillian. Before he left the house with a few items, he kissed her.
Gross.
And he let her live.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he thought she was going to die.
Okay.
So Bill, as it turns out, wasn't dead.
Oh, shit.
And he managed to crawl to the phone and call 911 and plead for help, but he died on his way to the hospital. Lillian, suffering from shock so severe she was nearly catatonic, managed to give a brief description of her assailant. She said he was a dark-skinned man with a black gun and bad teeth that smelled atrocious.
Well, he must have really smelled bad.
And this is I have to point this out. She didn't say it. I don't know who exactly described him this way, but in the documentary, someone described him at the time as smelling like a goat. And I feel like that needs to be brought up a lot.
Ha!
Yeah.
Smelled like a goat.
So if you've ever been to a petting zoo, that dirty, musty farm stink, that's what Richard Ramirez smelled like, apparently. Not to mention, when you got close enough, his teeth were rotten and his breath was heinous.
Right.
So,
ugh.
Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah. Footprints and bullets were found at the scene that matched those of the man they'd been looking for. May 29th, 1985. Ramirez drove a stolen Mercedes to the Monrovia home of sisters 83-year-old Mabel Ma Bell and 81-year-old Florence Nettie Lang. Once inside the house, he found a hammer in the kitchen and proceeded to beat both women.
Oh, Jesus.
He pulled the cord from an alarm clock and used it to shock Ma, and then brutally raped Nettie. He drew a pentagram on Nettie's thigh in lipstick and drew one on the wall in each bedroom. They were both left for dead. But they were alive when someone found them 2 days later. Nettie survived in a comatose state, but Ma Bell eventually died of her injuries in the hospital.
Oh, damn it.
May 30th, 1985. Ramirez took the Mercedes that he had stolen to the Burbank home of 42-year-old Carol Kyle. Once inside, he bound Carol and her 11-year-old son together and held them at gunpoint. He ransacked the house and let Carol go, demanding that she show him where she kept her valuables. Then he raped her while telling her not to look at him or he would cut her eyes out.
And he meant it.
He really did. Once he'd finished, he brought out her son and handcuffed them together before fleeing the scene. Both of them survived.
Oh, God.
June 27th, 1985, 32-year-old Patty Elaine Higgins, a special education teacher, was attacked by Ramirez in her Arcadia home. He broke in, strangled and sodomized her, and then slit her throat.
Jesus Christ.
Her body was found 5 days later on July 2nd after her coworker started to get worried when she hadn't shown up for work. Ramirez was eventually charged with the burglary and murder of Patty Higgins, but the charges were dropped due to lack of solid physical evidence at that crime scene. So I believe he was initially charged with 14 murders, and then it went down to 13 because there wasn't enough evidence in her case.
Okay, but...
Like, he absolutely did it.
Okay, thank you.
But they couldn't...
Right.
Because I feel like if one of them, they're like, not enough evidence, it would jeopardize all of the charges. July 2nd, 1985, 75-year-old Mary Louise Cannon was bludgeoned with a lamp and stabbed to death with a butcher knife in her Arcadia home. July 5th, 1985, Ramirez broke into a Sierra Madre home and bludgeoned a sleeping 16-year-old named Whitney Bennett with a tire iron.
Jesus Christ.
He couldn't find a knife, so he strangled her with a phone cord instead. Whitney was still alive and breathing at this point, so when the phone cord sparked, Ramirez took it as a sign that Jesus was intervening to save this girl's life. So he freaked out and fled. Whitney survived.
Oh, bless it, Whitney.
And received almost 500 stitches to close the wounds in her head that she had received from the tire iron.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah. And he...
That's like her whole face.
That's her whole
like
head. All of it.
Whole thing. He also left a bloody shoe print on Whitney's comforter. Mm-hmm. And also, I forgot to mention, at where Nettie and Ma were murdered, he had stepped on the alarm clock and yanked the cord out to shock her with, and there was a footprint on the alarm clock.
All matching the Avia?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So technically, that's 5.5 pages, but if you want, I can do a couple more.
Well, good thing he's only got one fucking pair of shoes.
Well, unfortunately.
Well, was that
these guys have been with us for almost 2 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we'll have to... That's
We'll
our...
stop there.
There we go.
Evidence, bloody shoe print on Whitney's comforter.
And that is the first half of Good Fucking God.
Yeah.
Right?
It's, I can't say it gets easier, because it doesn't.
Holy shit. Well, happy 100th episode, y'all.
Hey!
So we've got an extremely bizarre fucking unreal sounding
That needs to be a
Victorian
movie.
case. And then we've got the fucking Night Stalker, y'all.
The
and
fucking Night Stalker.
we're going to have more of him next week.
Yes, we are. But that documentary, it's good.
Yeah?
A lot of people say that it's too graphic. It is not, in my opinion.
So I'm sorry, if you're watching a documentary about the Night Stalker, you can't say it's too graphic. You're watching a documentary about the fucking Night Stalker.
Yeah.
Who are you? What is wrong with you? I don't
have
understand.
to assume that these people are new to true crime.
I don't understand.
Maybe they don't know who Richard Ramirez was.
Oh, they only know the American Horror Story version?
Possibly.
The really hot one with the good teeth?
Apparently, Zach
Very
Villa.
good teeth.
Zach
Very good teeth.
Villa is... Oh, God, that man.
Yeah, no, that wasn't really the Night Stalker, guys,
no.
if that's what you're thinking.
And also, apparently, a lot of people did not know Richard Ramirez was a real person. They just thought he was a character on that show.
Oh,
I can
bless their
only
hearts.
assume that they're the same TikTok youth generation that doesn't believe Helen Keller existed as
Okay, I saw your... I'm
person.
sorry. Okay, guys, I don't TikTok because I don't, but I can't.
So-
I shan't.
Apparently, there
This is a thing.
is a community of people. And it's not that they don't believe Helen Keller didn't exist. They don't believe that she could have been deaf, blind, and mute and done all of the things that she did. Which is pretty ableist.
Okay, so ableist is a thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, because they're essentially saying there's no way that she could have written books or given speeches if she were deaf, blind, and couldn't speak.
But yes, she could.
And she did.
Because
But-
it happened.
Somehow.
And now you understand why ableism is a thing.
I understand. I just, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I feel like they're also the same youths that tried to hex the moon.
I'm going to agree with you.
That's a thing that happened.
And dear, sweet little angel baby TikTok witches, if you were one of these youths that felt you could hex the moon, feel free to reach out. We could talk about some things. You know,
I'm curious.
so because somebody done steered you wrong.
Yeah.
It's not how this works.
No. We don't need to hex the moon.
That's not a fucking. I reach out if you need to.
Yeah. But like I said, I can only assume that those people are the same people that didn't know Richard Ramirez was an actual human monster
Yes.
/ real person.
Yes.
Like, y'all, you have the internet, clearly.
Yeah. Well.
There were many articles about
maybe-
Zach Villa playing
Right. Well,
real
maybe these
killer.
Are just, sheltered youths that don't know the horrifying things that we do.
I don't know. I'm not here for it.
Yeah,
It
I
is
was. I won't get into it,
nonsense.
obviously, till next week when she finishes her story. But I was
You were.
I was there
You
during the
were.
Night Stalker terror, and I was fucking terrified.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll get into that next week. So
Yep.
but yeah, well, it's a long end today because 100 of these bitches.
Hey!
Ayo.
100 minutes for 100th episode.
Right.
I don't think that's true.
Thanks for sticking around with us for
Yeah.
almost 2 fucking years and 100 episodes.
Hell yeah.
We really, really appreciate you.
Truly.
And we love you all.
Love
and
you.
So we will have some news soon. And if you have any questions about opting into GEDmatch, please feel free to reach out, or you can go to their website. If you have anything questions about that, feel free to reach out. It is clearly something that we and I am very fucking passionate about. And I realized what it is about Samuel Little. It's the does. The does fucking get me.
Yep.
Every single fucking time. It's just, that's what it is. So,
That is.
anywho, it's a long one. So y'all know the drill. Rate, review, subscribe, share. So till next time, y'all.
Hexes and Heauxs, y'all.
Hexes and Heauxs, y'all.
Bye.
Bye. Mwah.
Fuck
you, Bob.
Fuck you, Gwyneth.
Yep.
And Kim can't read.
Kimberly can't read.
She can't. And also, fuck you, Richard Ramirez.
Fuck you.
Just
Fuck you. Fuckface fucker.
Fucking dick fuck.
Fucking shit dick.
Shit in your freezer.
Fuck ball nuthead.
I'm gonna shit in your freezer.
Yeah, I don't think he has a freezer in hell.
I don't care.
no.